I've done videos before on quick pickling jalapenos and quick pickling pickles, cucumbers. And today we're gonna be quick pickling some red onions and some carrots. We're gonna be making some Mexican red onions and some spicy carrots. Now, quick pickling differs from pickling for preservation in that it needs to go in the refrigerator. So when I make these things, I know that I'm gonna be using them within 2-3 weeks, a month. I've kept them in the refrigerator for about 3 weeks before they were gone. And this is an easy way to get some great flavor into different vegetables and things. Pickling is a method that's long been used for things like that. It's not just for preservation. So let's go and get started, and I have some red onions out here on my cutting board. Now these red onions have already been peeled, the paper and the outer skins off of them. First thing I wanna do is I wanna cut this from pole to pole. Here's North Pole, South Pole, straight across, so that we end up with something like this. Now there's a core in here, and I just wanna pop that out, that little green part, on both halves. You might need to get down in there a little bit and go lose a little bit more of that center, but that's fine. Now what I wanna do is get some thin slices out of these. If you have a mandolin, you can use that to get really thin slices. I have one, but honestly, that thing scares me. So I'm just gonna get slices as thin as I can here, and that's probably good enough. And if some of them are a little bit thicker, it's not gonna hurt anything. Just like that. And if you get to a section where they're gonna be really thick like this, just leave it, it's not gonna hurt anything. Once I have these sliced up, I'm just gonna toss them into a bowl because we're gonna actually season these before they go into the jar for pickling. Let's do one more here. Just like that. So this is 2 large red onions that I've sliced up here. And the first seasoning we're gonna get on this, it's gonna go into our pickling jar with this, is some Tajin. Tajin is a chili lime spice. It's pretty common. You can find it in a lot of supermarkets or in Mexican markets. And I'm just gonna shake some on here, and we're gonna toss this around. Get it all over our onions. And we'll sprinkle a little bit more into the jar as we add our onions. Just want to get some on the surface here. Probably should have used a bigger bowl. We'll make it work. Sprinkle a little more here. Tajin is also really good on fruit. Orange slices, watermelon. All right, let's go ahead and get this in our jar. So I have my jar here. Some people call these mason jars, canning jars. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to get the red onions in this. We still have to make the brine for both this and the carrots, but if you get this ready right now, once that brine is hot and dissolved, you can pour it right in each jar. Now before I get the onions in here, I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of dried basil leaves. Also gonna give just a little shake of Tajin in there, and now we start cramming our onions in. You want to pack them in as tightly as you can. And whatever I can't fit in here, I'll just put in another jar. Also a little ladle works good. Just to push down. See how many we can get in here. We're getting close to the top, but might be able to squeeze a few more in here. A little bit more. Want it to be just below this lower rim. So that is looking pretty good right there. Had a few left, not too many. Now I'm gonna set these aside and we're gonna go ahead and get our carrots ready. So I have my peeled carrots right here, and I just wanna show you what I did is, here's the jar. I just sort of cut them in the length that they would fit in the jar. And what I want to do with these now is I want to split them into maybe half and then into quarters. Sort of like that. Some are going to be thinner than others, and that's okay. These don't have to be exact. So you might be wondering, what do you use pickled things like this for? These are great on salads. They're great in toppings for burgers and things like that, especially the red onions. And with summer coming up, these are just fantastic if you're having a picnic to put a jar of these out. There we go. Let's get these in their own jar. So for these carrots, which are going to be spicy carrots, into the jar first, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of red pepper flakes. Also going to add 3 large garlic cloves that have been sliced. And now we're just going to fit our carrots in here. Get as many in here as we can, and I think we'll be able to get everybody. Let's push everybody down. You want to get, like I said, right below that lower lip if you can. All right, let's go ahead and make our brine. So I have my induction burner out here, and this does have a little fan when I turn it on, so you might hear that. But let's get our brine going. And we're going to start with 2 cups of water. Next up, 2 cups of distilled white vinegar. 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, and 4 tablespoons of granulated sugar. I'm going to start my burner on medium. And we're going to stir. We want to get this all dissolved and bring this to a boil. Then as soon as it comes to a boil, we're going to kill the heat, set it aside so it cools down just slightly, and then we'll fill our jars. All right, we are starting to boil here. It doesn't have to be a huge rolling boil. Everything looks dissolved in there. It's going to give it a stir, and I'm going to kill the heat. I'm going to set it aside for a few minutes while we get our jars out here and get them filled so we can start pickling. So we're going to start with our red onions here, and I have the brine transferred into a measuring cup so it's a little easier to pour. We just want to get this up past the top of the onions. A little bit more. Now I'm not going to put the lid on here and seal it yet. I want these to cool just a little before they go in the refrigerator. This heat is going to help start pickling and softening these onions. So we're going to set this aside and let's do our carrots. We want to push down these carrots that are still sort of sticking up the top. They'll start to settle a little bit as they soften, but I want to get them down in there. Yeah, just a tiny bit more here. A little bit more than I like to add, but I want to get those covered. So here we have our red onions and our carrots, and what I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to let these cool for a bit. I'm going to put the lid on. They're going to go in the refrigerator. In an hour or so, you could actually taste these and you'd start to get that flavor, but I'm going to let them rest overnight, and we'll give these a taste tomorrow. Well, welcome back for the tasting. It's been 2 days, actually. I didn't do it the next day, but I got to admit something. Do you remember what the jar looked like when I had that little video right after we'd filled them? And here, I'll even put up a picture of the jars that I took for the thumbnail for this video. Well, take a look at the carrot jar now. I've been snacking a little bit, so the taste is not going to be any surprise. I'll just spoil it right now. It is awesome. These are so good. I also had a taste of the red onions, and they're fantastic, but these carrots, are so good. So let's get right into the tasting here. Now to taste the red onions, what I'm going to use is I've got this little piece of lightly toasted ciabatta bread, and I'm going to put some mozzarella on it. That's just some fresh mozz right there. And I'm going to put some of our pickled red onions on top of this to get a good bite. This will be a nice way to get a little taste here. Let's see. That little bit of the chili lime flavoring from the Tajin that we used really comes through in these red onions. It's not heat, it's flavor, and that works really well with something mild like this mozzarella. So yeah, this is a winner. But now, without further ado, Mr. Carrot. Now, the thing I really love about the way these carrots turned out is they're just slightly softened. They still have a snap to them, a crisp to them. Let me show you. They still snap. They're not mushy at all, but the flavor in these, a nice amount of heat from the red pepper flakes, flavor from those garlic slices. And if you wanted to up the heat in this, you could put something like pieces of habanero in here, pieces of jalapeno, but for me, this is the perfect amount of heat, and the flavor that comes through the carrots with this is just outstanding.